Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to a pretty exciting day here in the Madden community for Madden fans. So, as many of you know, E3 was today, EA Play, and a lot of us were expecting some big news for Madden 19, everything from gameplay to franchise mode. Well, all we really got was a trailer and confirmation that the game is coming to PC. So right after E3, it was a little disappointing, but you do a little digging here, and there is actually a ton that was leaked today, not in EA's press conference, but online. A lot of legit stuff. Seemingly every new feature that's going to be in Madden 19 is now available to us. So my goal for this video is to cover everything that I have in front of me, talk about what I'm excited about, and maybe some things that are still missing that I'm still hopeful that we may or may not see the rest of the summer leading up to August and the new game. One thing I will add before we get into these articles here, the game coming to PC is something that not a lot of people are going to talk about, but there's a lot of potential here with modding and the modding community, with all of the great community ideas, especially surrounding franchise mode that EA just doesn't implement every year. Those real immersive super sim type of concepts. If the modding community can take off on PC for Madden somehow, that could be a total game changer and really push EA to implement some of the stuff that modders can do. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but there's the potential for that now with the game on PC, and I'm definitely interested in that. So let's get into these articles here, and I will link all of this stuff in the description. The first thing, Longshot is back, or at least the career mode. I think they're calling it Homecoming this year. Whatever, I'll play it. I didn't hate Longshot last year. It looks like this is going to focus more on Devin Wade in the actual pros and then follow Colt as he coaches a high school team. I'm much more interested in the NFL side of things here. I thought it was well made. There were some interesting story points, so I'll play it. I'm not as down on Longshot as everyone else is. It's not like it was a home run, but I didn't hate it. So this is a big thing here, the gameplay and real motion. So there's really two big articles here. This one's about gameplay, and then the other one is about franchise mode. So we're going to start with the gameplay here. So they have a big focus on player control this year. So they're talking about this locomotion system here. Basically, it's a development on something they've already had, which is using that acceleration burst mechanic to really have your straight line speed and then laying off that to be able to make quicker cuts. They mention somewhere in this article the Stefon Diggs play, the Minneapolis Miracle, where he kind of stops on a dime and then cuts upfield. So the focus is that, given the right timing, here you go, in the one cut, the focus is that you should be able to turn upfield, especially if you have a player, I would assume, with good agility, to have a little more free reign to do some stuff with your movement. They talk about branching special moves together, juke spin combos and stuff. This is stuff they've had in the past, and frankly, they kind of already have a juke spin in Madden 18, so I guess they're just kind of taking a look at that, making it more natural. Some of this new movement does look pretty good. This is what I'm most excited about right here, probably, this hit the hole. So we've all played Madden 18 a lot and know exactly what I'm talking about here when you try to run up the middle, and they even talk about this right here. You try to run up the middle, and your running back is just clueless. He'll run in the back of your lineman and usually will just fall over or just get stuck until he gets tackled. So now if you see a hole, you can flick that stick and try to get through the gap. They have that RB mechanic in Madden 18 that just does not work at all, where he tries to sneak through a hole. So this is a new mechanic that they're trying out. I'm hoping that it works. Running between the tackles is often extremely frustrating. And then that paired with this push the pile thing, this was announced a while ago, but basically running between the tackles is going to be much more satisfying now. Power backs are going to be much more serviceable. This catching improvements is talking about basically fixing animations. So the biggest problem I have with gameplay actually is based on this right here, right now. There's an awful glitch, broken mechanic in this game, you could say, where you will rack the ball. You'll be, say, beating your guy on a 9 route. You'll be 5 yards ahead. The quarterback throws a nice ball, and you want to catch that thing on the run. or at least not go vertical to catch the ball, right? You should be able to, with that much separation, just turn around, catch the ball, and keep moving. The closest thing that should be able to do that is the rack mechanic with the X button. In Madden 18, your receiver will jump for the freaking ball, and then it triggers that animation where he gets hit in his low back, lands on his upper back, and the ball pops out. So now they're going to make it so if you hit rack or possession, your receiver will not go airborne. So you have to be much more decisive with those catch mechanics. But this does seem like a really smart way to fix this, and I like that. If you're going to go for that aggressive catch, it's going to feel much more like you're trying to attack the football. So I think that's a smart addition there. They've added a bunch of new animations from tackling to catching to juke moves and stuff. They talk about player signature here. So this is kind of cool. They've looked into, Aaron Rodgers touches his thigh pad frequently before the snap. Patrick Mahomes is very deliberate with his pre-snap adjustments. So kind of making things more authentic, which is pretty cool. Pretty small detail there. But, given the fact that they are making a lot of other changes, I don't mind them paying attention to some small details here and there, as long as it doesn't come at the cost of the big stuff. User-controlled celebrations. This will be cool just to kind of, spice things up when you do score. Be cool for people like me who make content for Madden as well. You can kind of decide how you want your guy to celebrate. Then they get into more computer coverage AI stuff here. This all sounds pretty good. Basically everything is being tweaked to, kind of attack the flaws in Madden 18. So, cover 4, they're going to have much more man coverage in your quarters and palms on the outside. So cover 4 might be a little more reasonable in certain situations. You got cover 3. They basically just talk about the curl flat defenders being more useful against bunch formations. So this, I would think they're talking about those corner routes, which dominated in Madden 18, making those purple defenders actually, play the sticks paired with this right here. So you can actually prepare for those predictable corner routes that are almost impossible to cover in Madden 18. And then Tampa 2, that middle read vertical hook defender playing the deep middle of the field. So things like deep posts and stuff against cover 2, which were unstoppable in Madden 18. Hopefully a little bit less overpowered. Now, I do hope they're careful with this because those middle linebackers can be very overpowered in coverage. That is the part of the field that you should be able to attack in cover 2. So there's going to have to be a middle ground there. And then they focus specifically on a new formation out of 4-2-5 personnel, big nickel, where it looks like that nickel back is going to be sort of your Cam Chancellor, a third safety. So that's pretty cool that they're looking at that trend. I know for a fact I'm going to be running teams where my base defense is this big nickel. It's kind of the bread and butter of like the Seattle, Jacksonville, Gus Bradley scheme there. So then on the topic of scheme here, this is what this last article is about here, is all about franchise mode. This one's from Game Informer, Matthew Cato leaking this one. So Madden has finally dedicated some time, much needed improvement here to schemes. Definitely the biggest, I'll hold back on saying upgrade to franchise mode. We'll see how it all plays out, but the biggest change to franchise mode. So the from the playbooks to development to your roster, everything is focused on scheme here. This is pretty cool where they will basically you pick your scheme and then it'll tell you which playbooks fit that scheme. And in our TFGO league, we actually were going to implement a coaching carousel style rule, and we actually I created a spreadsheet of schemes and playbooks that you could use. So I'm interested to see if my playbooks match what Madden came up with here. I would assume it's pretty close. But this all plays into this archetype and player development through archetypes. And it's pretty interesting, but it's also kind of complex here. So you can see here where my cursor is, each player's got an archetype. And then depending on your scheme, it's going to value certain archetypes over another. So each of these are, of course, calculated by a formula. So, like slot receiver is going to put more emphasis on probably catching traffic, ball carrier, carrying, that kind of stuff. Deep threat will be release. and speed. And, this goes from every position across the board. And then your best players, like they show Odell here, is a 90 in every archetype. Your best players are going to fit pretty much any scheme. So that's cool because it really does place extra value in those superstar players that I talk about in my roster breakdowns every week, those 90 plus players that truly are independent of scheme. So that term that I say all the time when I'm, talking about analyzing players and stuff on this channel now has a place in franchise mode. So that's pretty cool. And I'm also really excited because this is definitely going to help my ratings shine. In the past, I talk about guys like Patrick Robinson, right, who graded out extraordinarily well as a slot corner, right? So Madden, to reflect his good year and to keep people happy, would inflate his rating to like an 87. Well, on my roster, I can at least recognize that he's having a great year because of that scheme fit and what they're asking him to do. So now he'll be a slot corner scheme fit where it puts value in run defense and play recognition and stuff like that, so that he really can shine in the slot. But if you put him outside as an outside corner, he's going to struggle. So I'm really excited about this. Probably the number one thing I've been asking for is just to finally acknowledge the fact that, certain players, while they can be really good, if you put them in a different situation, it's not always going to translate. And then they tie player progression into this. And I don't think this really gives everything away. They mentioned that they still have game planning and focus training. So it doesn't seem like they have any kind of organic XP gaining thing, which was in my wish list. They are definitely changing progression, which is good. Anything different from last year is probably going to be an improvement. But basically what it looks like now is you get skill points as opposed to total XP, and then you apply that skill point to an archetype. And then based on the archetype you choose, it will give you random traits to your player. So you can't see what exactly you're getting before you apply the skill point. So this is a little risky because I know a lot of people in RPGs, they want to know exactly what they're developing, what they're growing. But I do like this because, especially in our online franchise, and the developer's answer is great here. Basically every free safety in our online league by the third year has high zone coverage, 85 plus zone coverage, because frankly, that's almost the only trait that really matters for free safeties. So now you can't just dump all that XP into one place. You're gonna develop a skill set for a guy, but you can't just kind of break the game and exploit one certain trait. So I really like that. It's good logic. They're gonna have to do it right for it to work, but they're definitely headed in the right direction there. So development traits and stuff like that, it looks like you cannot purchase them, but they do evolve. So they added that last year where developments are organic. I thought that only worked about half the time. I would like to see even more movement from year to year with those development traits. And then custom draft classes, we already talked about this, but they did release some much needed details here that I was really excited to hear about. I can't see it in here, but basically week 3 of your franchise mode, you will import the draft class, and you can either create it there, edit it, or upload one, which is good. I was waiting for confirmation that you can actually create it and share and upload it. You'll be able to plant gems, which I was also worried about. And then some of this stuff here is presentation stuff. So now I guess you'll see your coach chilling on the desk there. You can kind of faintly see it here in the background. They do have a new menu layout here somewhat. And then the draft, they'll have more of a video element to it. So you'll see the players you draft come out. I know that was a lot of people wanted that. It was an actual live draft type of presentation. And then the last thing here, which plays in hand with all the scheme stuff, is specific depth chart stuff like slot receiver, slot corner. Big time change there. Much needed, and was embarrassing that they haven't had it for the last 3 or 4 Maddens, but it's finally making its way in. And then planted somewhere in here, they mentioned regression, and they are completely reworking regression. This was the number one thing I was waiting to still hear about. It was basically my last video. I said, this is all great. The last thing that I need to hear is that regression is going to be fixed. And here it is. I just saw it as I'm talking. Basically, players won't automatically lose speed. It's based on weighted randomization. So whatever that means, it's another case where anything other than the last system is going to be an improvement. I'm hoping that they have some kind of a pliability rating, or that your player's development trait plays into how quickly and how soon they regress in their career. But I'm glad that they are still acknowledging that system was just messed up. So really, really freaking good news for franchise mode. I haven't been this excited for a Madden in a long time. This is significantly more change and improvement to franchise mode than we've seen in probably the last 5 years combined, all packed into one game here. So I'm really excited. All the biggies really have been talked about. Whether or not they do it right is yet to be determined. But really good stuff here. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of all this news. What are you excited for? What features have they not announced that you wish had been? So that's it. Cheers, everyone. As always, we'll see you next time.